Most older travelers think the hardest part of flying is the flight. It's not. It's the airport, the long walks, the last-minute gate changes, and getting worn out before the plane even leaves the ground. And what makes it worse is how much free help gets completely overlooked. Today, I'm going to share 10 kinds of help seniors with mobility, medical, or disability-related needs may be able to ask for in 2026. Things airlines rarely explain clearly that can save your energy, lower your stress, and actually make the whole trip feel easier. And the very first one might be the single most helpful request you can make on a travel day. One free service can completely change your airport day, and most people never ask for it: wheelchair assistance. And no, this isn't only for someone who can't walk at all. If long terminal walks are exhausting because of a disability or mobility limitation, or standing in airport lines wears you down fast, this is something worth knowing. On US airlines and foreign carriers flying to or from the US, passengers with disabilities can request wheelchair or guided airport assistance. That can mean help from check-in to the gate, and after landing, from the aircraft to baggage claim or the curb. Here's the key most travelers miss. Requesting it in your reservation does not always mean the right airport staff will automatically identify you. So when you get to the airport, tell the airline staff or the gate agent directly. A simple line like, "I requested wheelchair assistance. Can you please confirm that for me?" Make sure it actually happens. And trust me, this becomes pure gold when your first flight lands late and your connection is on the other side of the airport. A lot of travelers assume airport assistance only really applies at the departure airport, but once they land in a huge connecting airport, they are basically on their own. And that is where trips start to go sideways. A familiar airport is one thing. A connection in a massive, crowded terminal is something else. You are stepping into a place you do not know. Your next gate may be in another concourse. The screens may have changed since you boarded, and now the clock is moving faster than you want it to. For an older passenger with a disability or mobility limitation, that can be the most exhausting part of the entire day. The good news is that support does not automatically stop just because the first flight is over. If your layover is tight or the airport feels overwhelming, speak up early. Tell the crew before you deplane or ask the gate agent the moment you land. They can arrange wheelchair help, a staff escort, or even a quick ride across the terminal. One quick request here can be the difference between making your connection and watching the door close without you. And if you do make it to the next gate, there is still another question that can shape the rest of the trip, whether you have a comfortable place to wait once you get there. What if you finally make it to the gate and the waiting area is already packed, noisy, and just plain uncomfortable? Instead of suffering through it, just ask the gate agent, "Is there a quieter place nearby where I can sit for a while?" Sometimes they'll point you to a calm seating area most passengers never notice. And every now and then, that question can lead to something even better. Staff may be able to tell you whether you already have lounge access through your ticket, airline status, or a travel credit card benefit, or even a simple paid option. Even when it is not a lounge, the value is still real. A calmer spot to rest, charge your phone, and catch your breath can make the whole next leg feel completely different. Because once boarding starts, a quiet gate area stops being the issue. The real question becomes whether you can get on that plane with the time and assistance you need. A lot of people hear early boarding and think that is only for first class, elite status, or people who paid extra. But that is not always true. And just like help with a carry-on, if you have any mobility issue and need a little extra time, you're allowed to board early. US law requires airlines to give you that chance when you simply identify yourself and ask. You walk down the aisle at your own pace, settle in without being rushed, and nobody behind you is sighing impatiently. Have you ever asked to board early? And did it actually help? Leave a comment and let's see how many people have tried it successfully. because there is another free perk many passengers overlook, and it can make the long hours in the air feel a lot easier. Airlines love charging for seat selection these days. So many seniors just stay quiet and suffer through a bad seat. But if a certain seat is genuinely easier for you because of a disability or mobility issue, speak up. Maybe your knee is stiff and you need more room to get settled. Maybe you have a fused leg. Maybe getting into the seat is much easier with a movable armrest or simpler aisle access. Under US law, you can request for certain disability-related seating accommodations without paying an extra seat fee, as long as it is within the cabin you already booked. That does not mean a free upgrade to a higher class. It means a seat that works better for your needs. Just say something like, "I have a mobility issue, and this seat is going to be difficult for me. Is there another seat in this cabin that would be easier to access?" The earlier you ask, at booking, check-in, or the gate, the better your chances. Still, one of the toughest parts of boarding often has nothing to do with the seat at all. It is the carry-on. Lifting a carry-on into the overhead bin is not easy, and for older travelers, it can be one of the quickest ways to strain a shoulder, hurt your back, or lose your balance before the flight even begins. The smart move? Mention it to the gate agent before boarding even starts. In some cases, if arthritis, back pain, or limited reach makes it hard, tell them clearly. Airlines are required to provide assistance with stowing and retrieving carry-on items when a passenger with a disability requests that help. They might gate check it for free, assign someone to lift it, or guide you to the safest option. Either way, you avoid that painful lift in a crowded aisle. So far, we've covered the airport and boarding. Now let's talk about what happens once you're in the air, starting with the part many seniors worry about most. Have you ever caught yourself wondering, what happens if I get short of breath up there? You are not the only one who has that worry. A commercial flight is not a hospital, but it is not flying without medical backup either. Flight attendants are trained to respond to onboard medical problems and emergencies. And planes carry first aid kits, emergency kits, and automated external defibrillator for situations that need attention in the air. So if you start feeling dizzy, short of breath, weak, or anything feels off, speak up right away. The crew wants to help. Oxygen is where the rules get confusing fast. Most airlines do not hand out routine in-flight oxygen just because a passenger asks. But if you depend on an approved portable oxygen concentrator or another breathing device the airline permits, there may still be a clear path to travel with it safely. In many cases, that means contacting the airline ahead of time, often up to 48 hours before the flight, so they can tell you exactly what they need for that device. Once that is settled, the next issue feels a lot more ordinary, but it still matters plenty, whether the meal they bring you is actually something your body can handle. For older travelers who are managing a health condition, few things feel more frustrating than pulling down the tray table and realizing the meal in front of you is exactly what you were hoping to avoid. Maybe it is too salty, too sugary, or just not a good fit for the way you need to eat. Ever been in that situation? A lot of passengers do not realize airlines do offer special meals, usually as part of the meal service on eligible flights for dietary, medical, or religious needs. The catch is that this only works when the request is already in your booking. American says special meals are available on select flights and should be requested no later than 20 hours before takeoff, while United generally requires at least 24 hours notice. And it is worth keeping your expectations realistic. Not every airline offers the same choices, and not every route has the full range of special meals. Some are helpful, some are pretty basic. And if your diet is very specific, it is still smart to have a backup in your bag when travel rules allow it. Something simple like a protein bar or plain crackers that you already know works for you. And speaking of how food affects your body at 35,000 feet, there is another tip many travelers completely overlook. and it can have a much bigger effect on your body than people realize. Cabin air is super dry and dehydrating, especially for seniors on medication or managing blood sugar. Don't wait for the drink cart. On many airlines, you can ask for more water if you need it. The bigger point is that service is not the same everywhere. Some airlines still serve free snacks, others sell them. Either way, a simple, "Could I please have another cup of water?" is completely normal, especially on a longer flight. And if you need a little snack with your meds, just ask. The worst they'll say is no. But sometimes there are extra crackers or another small snack. But that is still better than sitting there feeling shaky, dry, or lightheaded and hoping it passes. And if you think water is the only small comfort that matters on a long flight, there are a few others people forget to ask about all the time. Long flights have a way of making little things feel huge. A blanket, pillow, earbuds, or even a basic toiletry kit can suddenly feel like exactly what you needed. On many longer flights, these extras are available if you ask early, and keep it simple. Do you happen to have any spare comfort items like a blanket, pillow, earbuds, or a basic toiletry item? Sometimes the answer is no, but when it's yes, the rest of the flight suddenly feels a whole lot easier. A blanket can make a freezing cabin a lot easier to deal with. A pillow can take some pressure off your neck or lower back. Earbuds can turn a long, dull stretch of flying into a movie, music, or at least a distraction from the engine noise. And trust me, being able to brush your teeth before landing can make you feel human again. A smoother trip is not always about spending more. A lot of the time, it comes down to knowing what help is available and asking for it. For older travelers, that can make a real difference. A little support at the right moment can save energy, reduce stress, and make the whole journey easier. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these would help you the most on your next flight? And have you ever asked for any of them before? Share your experience in the comments. If this video helped, give it a like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more simple travel tips that make flying easier and more comfortable.